What should Congress and the President do concerning the millions of immigrants now living in the country who came here outside of the legal process? And what steps should be taken to reduce the number of people who continue to come to the United States illegally or who extend their stay here illegally? So, you know, in other words, what is your position on immigration policy and reform?
I believe that there should be a pathway to citizenship for all people that are here in the United States, that pathway to citizenship should include ensuring that those that are not following our laws are removed from the country, but that the vast majority who are have an opportunity to go through a process that ends with citizenship for those future Americans. In the meantime, I would strongly oppose the continuing privatization of the detention and deportation process as it applies to immigrants, that if the government is going to detain people that are not citizens and deport them, then that should be done as a public service and not through a private company.
Mr. Reale?
Well, in a free world without centrally planned economies, it's not called immigration, it's called moving. Unfortunately, we do have a centrally planned economy in a welfare state. I am not against anyone who wants to come here and work and contribute and better themselves. That's awesome. We should be very excited about that. The problem I have, though, is, hey, you know, you're here, you didn't go through the citizenship process, but you want public benefits, you want this, you want that. I would say if you say, you know what, no public benefits, no subsidies, nothing of any kind if you come here illegally, you know what, that would really start to solve a lot of the problem.
Representative Courtney?
Yeah, I think Dan's characterization, to be honest with you, is kind of insulting. I mean, if you go around eastern Connecticut, you will see undocumented folks who are milking the cows, picking the crops, turning the beds back, working in restaurants, caring for the elderly. I mean, the fact is that the vast number of folks who come to this country want to work and build a life. And what we should do is go back to the bipartisan bill that passed the Senate 3 years ago that created a pathway to citizenship, boosted border security, and targeted or prioritized the folks who should be deported, who have gone through the whole deportation process, supported by the AFL-CIO, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, faith-based groups, including the U.S. Conference of Bishops, as well as the American Farm Bureau. You don't get a coalition like that around many bills in Washington, but the fact is we need to fix this system, and there's like a bill that we could vote on within hours if we had a Congress that would function normally. Paul Ryan and John Boehner refused to bring that bill up, even though it got almost 70 votes in the Senate, and would have gotten this problem behind us once and for all. And it was such a lost opportunity.
Ms. Novak.
You know, I'm not into blaming people or parties. I think that all of Washington's the problem. We've had career politicians and incestuous relationships down there for way too long. We've seen the same thing in Hartford with 30 years of one-party rule. We need to look out for Americans first. And what that means is we are a nation of laws, and we follow our laws. If we don't like our laws, we change them. We need immigration reform. Now, what I'm most concerned about is the violent criminals that come here that are illegal aliens that are committing crimes over and over again, being released, catch and release programs where our immigration people are saying before they even get home to their own families at night, these criminals are back on the street. I think we've seen that locally with Stacey Chadwick when she's killed. We know about Stengel out west. We've seen case after case where we have violent criminals. So I would support immediately sending violent criminals back to their home country and ensure that they leave ours and that they are not allowed back in this country for a very long time.
Mr. Pelto, you got the question first. Any further comment on what you've heard? And okay,
we've covered it.
Mr. Reale?
Yeah, I got to address something Joe just said here. And let me clarify, there's nothing wrong with anybody who wants to come here and work, but we are $20 trillion in debt. I mean, to be somehow you know, find anything insulting about not giving somebody benefits who hasn't come here legally, you've got a choice right now that's going to come up in the next 3 years if we keep doing this between $800 billion in additional debt service or $8 a gallon of gasoline because we've gone so far off the cliff. We don't have money to give non-citizens public benefits.
Thank you. Representative Courtney?
Yeah, if you would take the time to read the law in terms of Medicaid, Medicare, even the Affordable Care Act, if you're undocumented, it is illegal for them to get those benefits. That has been on the books for years. So it's this, myth that I'm sad to hear Dan sort of perpetuate, that that's what's driving the people moving, as he said, to this country. The fact of the matter is that if you talk to the farmers out there in Eastern Connecticut, they will tell you that some of their best employees are folks who are coming here just to basically escape poverty and also improve their lives. And that's what we need to create a pathway for, to promote that and incentivize that, which is what we are as a nation. That's how we refresh and strengthen ourselves, by being inclusive and welcoming, like my great-great-grandfather who came over from Ireland in the potato famine.
I'm also going to get a chance, not surprisingly, the incumbent is hearing some questions raised. I want to give him also a chance to rebut 30 seconds to what the point that was raised by your Republican opponent. The problem with the federal government not enforcing deportation, that we have seen too many cases, one in Norwich, of people who were supposed to be deported, sometimes for murder. They managed to stay in this country and then commit crimes again. So if you could address that criticism.
It was a horrific case, total system failure. Casey's mom came down to Washington, and I helped her with her testimony when she told her story, which you could have heard a pin drop in the room from folks on both sides of the aisle. And we've introduced legislation to force the Department of Homeland Security to prioritize these cases, particularly involving violent individuals who've gone all the way through the deportation process, to make sure that they and the State Department work together to execute these orders that judges have imposed that they need to leave. And that should be absolutely done, as Daria said, right off the bat. And frankly, we could do that and move on to larger comprehensive immigration reform.
Thank you. The next question is to Dan Reale from Julia Berg.